From Dragon 360, this is Digital Banter, a podcast focused on modern marketing tactics and driving real business results. And now, here are your hosts, James and Zach.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Digital Banter. As always, I am Zach. With me, of course, is James.
Welcome back, everybody.
This is going to be a fun topic. James and I, we were kind of meeting in our production meeting of how we wanted to approach this week. And we kind of had this, well, I think this actually is James' idea, but I think what it's evolved into is a good mixture of both of our insights. And really what we're talking about today is the overall structure of a company that we like to work with, the benefits, different types of structures we've experienced in our experience across different industries, brands, products, in a B2B format, but then also talking a little bit at the end about, in-house benefits versus hiring an agency partner, or as some even allude to, and we're going to talk about this, just a vendor and why we dislike that. So really what it is, like I said, we want to talk about the different business structures, more about the organizational structure of a business, of kind of what's leading decisions, who are these decision makers. At the backbone of the company, what is the driving factor? And James and I actually, we have a lot of similarities here, but this is actually where we have different opinions of what we like best, which goes to show there's not a perfect answer to this conversation. And every, honestly, marketer or even company has their own insights and preferences to what is happening around them in today's world. To be honest, I think where we should start is just kind of outline really what we kind of came up with is like the 4 business-led types. Those 4 are finance-led, sales-led, marketing-led, and product-led. And what I'm talking about is when I use the term led, as in like leading the business. So I want to start with one that we both determined that we really don't like, but it's finance-led. So James, what is a finance-led organization? What does that look like? And then we'll get into some pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, everything finance-led, product-led, marketing-led, sales-led, it's all about, how the marketing leadership is structured and really who is the ultimate decision maker at the end of the day. Where is strategy coming from? Everybody's leadership is made up a different way. And, it really is, I want to be sure to say this, it is in all of these situations dependent on the individuals that make up this leadership team that kind of leads to, it's the success of the company. The success of a company is built in the leadership. But what we're diving into more around is because all of these leadership structures can work.
Absolutely.
But what is more conducive for a productive agency partnership rather than a vendorship, we'll call it. And I will complain about that quite a bit later. But one of the things that we have found as an agency, and this is a big part of what we're talking about today, is again, not every organizational structure is fit to work with an agency. Some teams are better building things out in-house. Some teams are better, depending on how that structure is, you might have a better relationship. So some of the things that we've found with finance-led organizations, we've kind of historically found that these are the most difficult relationships to have, because we often see from a finance perspective, organizations are overly focused on short-term goals and really focused on what can we do now to hit our targets, because you need to hit your targets in order to get more budget. That's kind of the philosophy that we see all the time. And it can lead to tough situations, because what it leads to from a marketing perspective is what can we do to get quick wins, which is heavily focused on demand capture activities, the age-old issue of, hey, how can we squeeze more out of paid search, because paid search has a 700% return on ad spend, even though all those people are just searching for your brand, and it's just it's an easy demand capture activity. But the long-term vision and the idea that it will go to the 80-20 rule, it's going to cost 8 times as much to acquire a new customer than it is to convert somebody who's already looking for you. I feel like that gets lost sight of a lot of the times in finance-led situations. Some of the great things about them, though, they're very fiscally responsible.
Yep, I was going to mention that.
Always willing to scale with results. Like, I mean, that's always a great a great win. You show us the results, and we'll give you more budget. I mean, I feel like that is a fair situation, but it does some of those other goals that a brand may have kind of fall short. And when I say other goals, like brand focus, like what do you want to be known for, product innovation, a lot of those things we can see maybe don't get as much time as they deserve.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, what it comes down to on kind of our perspective, right, is that everything, whether it's strategy, the conversations we have, the insights we provide, at the end of the day, everything goes back to the budget. Are we in line with budget? Are we on pace? Are we under pacing? Are we over pacing, right? And everything in turn almost comes back to the dollar, as opposed to some of the qualitative results that we've talked about before, what's going on behind the scenes in sales. So,
yeah. And that's where, like, again, going back to, how the partnership works, I feel like a lot of times when teams are very finance oriented, agencies get looked at as a line item and not a member of the team. You often have these vendor relationships. I mean, another huge thing is like, you're not in many agency relationships, like you're not actually talking to the person who's making the financial decisions. You're talking to somebody on the marketing team. And this is where we often have like hey, as an agency, like it's the game of telephone, to be honest. Like you kind of pitch your idea, the marketing team then brings it to finance. And by that time, like, I don't know, there's just like a gap in what's there. And
we were talking about this today, actually, that similar scenario. It's maybe not necessarily an organization that's led this way, but you were talking about there's a client, you type up a shit ton of notes before a call, and then you give it to our point of contact, whether that's on the marketing team, whatever, and then they either just forward the email, or you hope they're sharing what you're talking about properly to the team, right? And again, you're exactly right. The telephone game. Things get misconstrued, misspoken about, or just completely wrong at the end of the day, right? So then either because it's coming from you, you can either look like an idiot, or you can look like someone who's trying to just get more money. And it goes back to, again, that vendor relationship. And not to say that that's bad. There are some organizations that a vendor relationship makes sense. There are times I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't want to be in that relationship myself. I know James doesn't either. I think as an organization, we don't want that relationship either. We pride ourselves in being a partner, an extension of your team. We are your team. But vendors have a place. There is a place and purpose for these. And there's tons of organizations that are good at just that, right? Hey, hire us just to manage your Google ads. You tell us what to do, add us to your project management tool and give us a task. We'll do it. Great. That's great for some organizations, whatever. But when you're looking at a perspective from, let's say, James and I, and the rest of our team, right, we want to be in there with you. Let's understand what happened with this lead. What's happening with this? What is the overall goal of the company, and how are we a part of that success type of deal, more than just budget backed? And don't get me wrong, we meet with finance teams all the time to discuss budgets and projections and forecasting. So no matter what aspect of a business, finance is still going to be a part of the conversation. If not, well, you're either going to run out of money real quick or something bad's going to happen. I don't even want to go down that road, but it's definitely still part of the equation. But going to the next step, and James, this is your personal favorite, is a product-led organization. As I stated, James, this is your favorite. I quite enjoy them as well. It's not my personal favorite. A product-led team, it's going to be about, they have all the knowledge of the product. It's more of a partner relationship, though, on an aspect of they hire us to be the marketing team to put the messaging and product in front of the right people. They have the technical knowledge, the audience insights, right? The vision of where the product is going, whether that be a roadmap or just, hey, here's where we want to be in 5 years. What they don't have is the technical marketing knowledge. They tend to have some marketing knowledge of how they want to do something, but they don't have the expertise to put that into action. And that's where a partner comes into place. James, I'll let you speak on your favorite because, like I said, this is your
I absolutely love working with product marketers, product marketing teams, product managers. I think there's a lot that goes into this. One of my favorite parts about working in an agency rather than in-house is that you have the experience to learn about, a ton of different brands at the same time, right? Like you're not working with one individual, you're not working in a silo. Like you can kind of shift from like one business to another. And there's a lot of like great things that come out of that. A big thing that does come out of that is you get to see what is working from a marketing perspective across brands. And that's something that you typically don't get in in-house teams. And I think it's something that product marketers really like. I mean, again, and a big part of like our philosophy as an agency is gathering customer insights, market research, and using that to inform strategy. And product marketers are literally the best at getting these customer insights. Like they have an understanding of how the product is used, what are the types of projects that it's used for, who the target audience is, the messaging that resonates with that target audience. I think that's a little bit, I do think that some of the like sales-led and marketing-led organizations do a little bit better there. But essentially from an agency and client relationship, we can really lean on them to give us the product and customer insights that we're looking for, product roadmap, all of that stuff. And then we can be creative around messaging, distribution, and really hone in and be marketers. Because one of the things that, and I feel like this isn't talked about a lot, but as an agency, like we offer content strategy, content service, but I'll be honest, like it is difficult in some situations to create content without like a significant create a content strategy, create content without getting those insights from the client and the product people. They just have the best stuff. And you also have like more, I feel like there's a lot more like good business conversations with those teams too.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of having a roadmap in mind. Like they know where they want the product to go or where the product is actually going, right? And one benefit of product-led teams as well is they tend to, you were talking about having insight into messaging and really perception. But that's also because product teams are typically meeting with every other team, whether that is the development team, whether that is the sales team, whether that is the marketing team. All down those roads on all those paths. Sometimes they're even meeting with like enterprise solutions. Mm-hmm. What are big companies saying about this product? So they have a lot of insight. Now, kind of where I personally like is marketing-led teams. Now, I'm going to say this with a caveat. There's one big con, if we were to look at pros and cons to marketing-led teams that I'll get into, and one thing I absolutely don't like about it. But marketing-led teams are typically people that have a very deep knowledge of the technical marketing. It's almost the opposite of product marketing teams, if we were to go down that path. A marketing team understands what's realistic, what can happen. Typically, they understand before coming to their partner, their executional partner, they understand some of the forecasting that's going to happen. They understand realistically, if we were to spend X amount, we can potentially get, this much results, or this is the benefit of this. And they come with that knowledge where it's not 100% of the partner to come up with the full strategy. Because I do think sometimes that can be a struggle. And that is one benefit. So a product-led team, they understand their product to a T, right? But sometimes there are some software, some services, some products where it's like, it's really hard to understand what the hell you're selling or what the hell you do. And you could explain it to us a million times. We've had this. We've experienced this with a couple clients where they have a software. We think we understand it, but we don't necessarily get it on all points. And sometimes it's hard for a product manager to sometimes break it down even more. Where a marketing team, a marketing-led organization can take those hard nuances that someone might not understand, like us who doesn't work internally for you, break it down to a level of, okay, well, here's what you need to know for marketing. when what you're selling is this statement. Perfect. Right. And then we can strategize alongside the marketing team with realistic expectations and goals of how we execute this. To me, a marketing-led team, and why it's one of my favorites, is it tends to be more of a whole conversation around what is possible. And I think that's something, I mean, that's something we kind of talk about here as well, right? Internally, is what is possible. Let's be real. Let's be possible. Let's be our best selves. And the marketing team, I think, has a better understanding of that in our industry, inside of the, like I said, the technical knowledge. On the other side of that, the biggest con, and I think this one might be the biggest con of any business-led type, is you can run into an ego battle. The marketing team, like I said, has this technical marketing knowledge. They hire a partner. Why do you hire a partner? For their knowledge, right? A marketing team doesn't want to feel like they're useless, so they're going to try and win a battle of a conversation, right? Especially if it comes down to budgeting internally, right? We had a whole conversation about we're going into this recession. What does that look like, right? People, of course, that's a worry of job security. So you have these marketing teams, then you also have this vendor. Why would someone come in and not say, well, why do we have you guys when we can just hire these guys for less, right? Than your salary. So there sometimes can be this egotistical battle, and that is something you have to overcome. And sometimes it comes down to almost like employee relations. Sometimes personalities just don't work together, and you do have to realign. A contract is not continued, and that sucks. It's a sucky conversation. In my opinion, you tend to see more churn between partner relationships in this type of led organization, which is why I was saying this is a bigger con. But it still is one of my favorites purely because of the atmosphere of everyone understands typically what is possible. They're optimistic, but they understand they're realistic at the same time.
Yeah. This is one that I just feel like completely depends on the people 100%. On the team.
It absolutely
because it can be a fantastic relationship. Like I love working with other marketers who have like a similar level of expertise that I do on certain things. You don't have to explain some of the technical stuff that sometimes you have to explain. The attribution conversation is usually a little bit easier. But then there's the, hey, we hired you because, we don't have time to do paid search, or we hired you because we don't have time to write content.
Yeah.
And those are like, as an agency, those are the types of relationships that we avoid. Like we're not here to just provide like one service and have you tell us what to do. Like, I don't want to say we're above that, but like, it's not the relationship that we are looking for. And sometimes like if you have a marketing team of 25 people and you have a specialist in every single role, like at that point, it's better to bring whatever that skill is that you're looking for in-house versus a smaller marketing team that is looking to, give you a seat at the table when it comes to strategy and ideas and customer insights and all of that. Like that is the ideal situation.
Absolutely. And this moves on to kind of the fourth business-led type, I guess is how we can organize that. It's a sales-led organization. This one is much like finance, right? It's very self-explanatory. Everything at the end of the day is about the sales team driving the conversation. Typically what you tend to see is it's about quality over quantity, but you want a shit ton of quantity. It goes back to kind of that MQL SQL fight, right? Would you rather have 5 good SQLs or 1 million MQLs, right? Where do you want their time to be there? And that turns into one of the bigger cons is it's almost a fight butting heads between the sale and marketing team, because marketing team, they're being told your leads are shit. So we focus on quality, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, where'd they all go? We're not getting as many leads. It's like, well, what do you want? Right. And I think that conversation probably resonates with most people listening, because you find that everything from a local agency all the way down to working with Fortune 500s, right? There's always a hard fight between quality versus quantity, finding that happy medium. I don't know of any organization where the sales team and the marketing team really are in love with each other. I've seen organizations where the sales team and the marketing teams, they get along, they share insights, right? But I've never seen them truly be best friends. Maybe outside of work, but.
Well, this is something that we've talked about before too in the conversation of lead gen versus demand gen, right? On a lot of sales-led organizations are heavily lead gen marketing strategies because what they are looking for is they're looking for leads so that essentially then the sales team can then go do marketing. Versus I know our approach to strategy is like, we want to come as close to we can as marketers. Like we want to come as close to as we can to a touchless sales process. Like maybe that's not the right. We basically don't want any.
We don't want your sales team to work harder than they have to.
Yeah, we want them. We want to turn your sales team into order takers. That's what we want to do at the end of the day. That makes a happy sales team. But a lot of these like sales-led organizations, what happens is they built out the sales team before they built out the marketing team. A marketing team wants to do sales at scale. A sales team wants to do sales on their accounts that they close and they get paid on. And this even goes back to the whole pay structure thing of marketing versus sales. Like sales gets paid every time it's heavily commission based, marketing is salary based. So the market and that conflict comes from literally just that, because the marketing team can sit back, make $100,000 a year and just deliver crap leads. And the sales team has to deal with those crap leads in order to make their money, which sucks. But, and that's like my favorite part about working with organizations like this is I feel like us as an agency, like we can help make that change by focusing on quality, shifting to demand gen. There's a lot of good things that can happen when you do that.
There is a benefit. Sorry,
go
please.
ahead.
Yeah, one of the big benefits though of a sales team that actually helps the marketing team out a lot is they understand customer pain points. They are literally talking to prospective customers or talking to customers that reach out to them again that are already hired or bought the service or software, excuse me. They understand why they're signing on, right? So I do think if it is a sales-led organization, marketing teams shouldn't be so quick to, fight. You got to hear the sales team out because they probably have really good insights we're not thinking of.
Yeah.
And then
common objections, I think, is one, like in marketing, you do not see common objections where the sales team will see that every day.
Yep.
Price is too high, doesn't have this integration, whatever it may be. Like there are common objections that marketing needs to be speaking to ahead of time.
Yep.
So if marketing addresses those common objections before it gets to sales, again, the salesperson, I don't like to say you're going to turn into an order taker, but that's our goal, right?
Yeah. One and done conversation, right?
Yeah.
Let's answer a couple other questions that you might have that are lingering. Does it integrate with XYZ CRM or whatever, right? There's some
that should be handled by marketing.
It's possible, right? Sometimes, there are weird ones, right? I mean, there's a million CRMs, but at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. If marketing may not be able to control the price of it, but if we can speak to the price of it, of how it can actually save you money. I know it goes back to that thing of saving time and money. Everyone does that. But if you can show it in an actual real life scenario of where we're actually saving money, even if it costs more than what you're using, there we go, right? And that's how it should be. So absolutely. So we've kind of outlined the four. Again, this just goes to show James and I have different perspectives on what organizations we lead and we love. I will probably agree with James, to be very honest with you. Some of the best clients we have are product-led teams. But again, it all comes down to natural bias and preference. I know people who love finance-led teams. I know people who love sales-led teams. I mean, it's just everyone's different. So there's no right or wrong answer. We're not saying because James and I say we like product-led teams to all of a sudden fire your entire sales team and reorganize. Don't do that. Just see and use these insights of how you can maybe bring together a more cohesive environment and understanding the vendor versus partner relationship, which is actually where I want to get to. We've mentioned this a lot. Vendor, partner, we classify ourselves as a partner, not a vendor. In some cases, I think there have been times where we have acted as a vendor. So I think we should kind of differentiate and make a clear understanding of vendor versus partner. So how would you kind of go down this path of breaking out the difference?
Yeah, it's all about, having a seat at the table when it comes to strategy. What we see in a lot of prospecting conversations is somebody's looking for, and they just want you to do, and not saying that like they just want you to do one thing, right? They want you to run paid search. They want you to run paid social. They want you to do SEO. They want you to write blogs for you, right? And they just want you to perform that action. But when it comes to, feedback, like back and forth between, client partner relationship, it's essentially, you as the vendor are in this like order taker relationship. They're controlling the whole strategy. They just need an extra hand on deck.
It really, like, it's very similar to in perspective and how I think of vendor versus partner. The vendor side of it is, think about these websites, right? Like Fiverr, Freelancer. I think there's one called Upwork or something like that, right? You have these freelance tools, consultant tools, where yes, agencies are on these websites, but it's like, hey, I will set up your Google campaign for X amount of dollars. I will manage your Facebook campaigns for this amount of dollars, right? And there are agencies out there who just want to be known as that. I want to do basic work, make my money. You tell me what to do. I don't have to think. I'm just going to, put it into practice. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, there are organizations who need just that. We talked about it, right? A marketing-led team might have a full, robust team. They just don't have someone or the resources right now to hire a full person to manage Google. They don't have enough money for there, so they can hire someone for $500 a month on Fiverr to just go in and manage them and optimize them.
Now, what's difficult about those types of relationships, though, is you're not going to get nearly as good of results.
Correct.
Because, I mean, the amount of care, effort that goes into
they have no
campaign
buy-in.
management and optimization. Let me put it this way: it's hard to create ads, creative, whatever it is, without doing customer research. Like, there's a lot of strategy components that need to go into it. And then the other thing too is that, we talk about egos a little bit too. I'll speak to my experience. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years and I've probably worked with 60 plus B2B companies, right? I have a good, well-rounded view on what works in different situations, what I've tested 1,000 times and still doesn't work. And that's like, those are the things that agencies like really look to want to like bring to the table, because, we can help, shut down ideas early on, or we can really help, sell the good stuff early on. And I think having that seat at the table is really, really important.
Well, having a seat at the table too, I think I said it a minute ago, you have buy-in, right? So not only are you there to be an extension of their team, but you're also forward thinking. We're thinking about, FY23 at this point. Yeah, we have Q4 discussions in place. How do we want to approach it, especially, in B2B, talking about Christmas coming up, right? That last half of December is, let's be real, not much happens, right? So we're almost thinking about 23. What's going to happen in 23? How do we approach this? What are some new channels we should explore? And out of a vendor, you're not going to have that conversation. They're linking month to month. Okay, I got my $500. Here's 6 campaigns that I'm just optimizing. Let me do some keyword search terms, right? Shut off those Performance Max campaigns if you listen to like last month or last week's episode. That's what a vendor's doing. Whereas like a partner, and this is kind of where I'm taking this, right? What does an agency want? Well, I can speak for our agency. What do we want? We want almost like a stake in the company. We want to be held liable and accountable for what we're doing. We want it to be where your project managers, your digital marketing managers, your whoever is coming to us and saying, hey, finance is saying this. Let's be real. Let's be transparent. How do we fix this?
Yep.
And so we work together and collaborate. And it goes back to what
I was going to say, your job doesn't end when you hand off your lead.
We're not just launching a campaign. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking like the whole lead gen thing too. We talk about quality a lot. Again, you want a vendorship relationship. It's like, okay, I handed off my leads. You have your leads, right?
Here's 100 MQLs. Good luck.
Yeah, here's what the sales team. You should talk to the sales team. Like it's like no, in our like we want to talk to the sales team.
Yep.
I want to know. Hey, I sent you 6,000 leads. Where did they come? Like, what happened to them?
Yep.
Is it working?
Absolutely. And you're working with different teams too, right? In this case, in an ideal relationship, we are working with product teams. In a real relationship, we are working with marketing teams. We, on some level, work with a sales team more for feedback. We're working with potentially a data analytics team, a development team. We are almost internally a part of your team as our own department, meeting with all these teams, much like almost anyone else would. And that's important because really what it comes down to and chalks up to is commitment. Everything from commitment in the strategy, commitment in the success of the organization beyond just the marketing strategy, commitment to understanding feedback, utilizing the feedback, and gathering the right feedback to help us propel, right? And then also coming up with ideas, working as a team at roundtables, as we like to say it. Let's shoot the shit and talk about some new channels coming on board or some new tools we found that might elevate us into another channel, which is actually a real life scenario that we're having right now with a couple clients. As we found a new tool that would be great. And if we were just a vendor, it'd be like, not right for these guys, even though it probably would be. And I think that's what it comes down to is I've said it a lot and I'll stop saying it, but the buy-in is there. Again, you're an extension of the team. So,
it's like, I feel like I have a really good analogy for what makes up a good agency client relationship.
Let's hear it.
I think it comes down to what you would look for in a manager at the end of the day, right? Like there are managers who micromanage, tell you what to do, and then reprimand you when you screw up. And, basically the only time you hear from them is like when you mess up versus, what I look for in a manager is, somebody who I can have an open relationship with, somebody who I can look to for strategic insights, somebody who's been in the trenches and kind of knows the same, can help me with certain projects. It's just more of a open, fluid relationship versus, again, the bad manager of, hey, let me tell you what to do, go do it.
Absolutely. No ifs, ands about it. I mean, at the end of the day, who would you want to go to have a beer with?
Yeah.
Think about it that way too. So, well, I think we've hit the nail on the head with kind of what we're talking about. I'm really kind of curious as well. And I know you can't physically comment on, Spotify, but we're always posting about our episodes on LinkedIn. So don't be afraid to connect with us on LinkedIn. We love these conversations, continue them past the podcast, right? James and I, like I said, we post on LinkedIn, comment on our posts, connect with us. Let's talk about what you just listened to and tell me why you like a sales-led team. Let's talk about it because there's probably points that we didn't even think of that someone who loves a sales-led team is going to be like, hey, this is why I love it. So we love those conversations because it also gives us more insight. But at the end of the day, right, if we were to chalk it up, what type of company makes for the best agency relationship, despite what my personal favorite is, at the end of the day, a product-led team tends to make more sense in a B2B partnership aspect. James, I'll let you kind of speak to it. It is your personal favorite, but I probably do have to agree with you there.
Yeah, no, I think we've beat the horse with this a little bit, but it really comes down to, if you're this is like if you were to outsource your full marketing team, I would much rather talk to product people than anybody else because they have the vision, they have the customer insights, they understand
the journey,
the unique selling points of the product. They understand. It's often hard when somebody with an outside view just wants to focus on profitability, just wants to focus on, making the sale, that just wants to focus on, marketing. Like I feel like you get like, And one of the things I hate is like brand tagline messaging in ads. Like you're not winning anybody over with that, where like a product person understands the need for education and they know what to say. And then they can, lean on their agency partner to deliver that message, which is just is conducive of a very nice, easy relationship.
Absolutely. And I think something that we were talking about earlier that I want to make sure we get to is what does an agency, let's say if they were to work with us, James, what do they get versus what they would get or wouldn't get when they hire in-house, right? Some organizations can afford to hire a marketing team and a partner, but if you had to make the decision, should I get a partner or should I hire a full-fledged marketing team? What are you losing if you go in-house? One of the biggest ones that I think we hit the head on all the time, and people hear it all the time, is with a partner, right? There tends to be a full team behind you, typically for less than that of a salary of 1 or 2 employees. Where, if you work with us and you do paid media, development, creative, whatever, right? There's potentially up to 12 people touching your account where you might be able to afford 1 or 2 employees for the same aspect. And you can't expect 2 employees to do the same work that 12 are going to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many I'm going to rattle off here, but there's a couple of reasons why I would go. Actually, I'm going to start with why I would go in-house.
That's fair.
Agency, because I do think that there is a reason for this. Like, a clear benefit of in-house versus agency is, do you want to have somebody 100% focused on your brand, or in an agency situation, like, I'll be honest, it's like 10, 15, 20% of the time that we're spending is going to be on your brand. Now there is a layer of, on the agency side, you are looking for expertise that maybe you don't have internally. On the agency side, the agencies typically have access to tools that are not as easily accessible in-house, right? So like, hey, we have a reporting tool that we use that we spend X dollar a month for. It's kind of out of the budget internally, but hey, we can use that across 50 different clients in our organization, right? So that's like, typically we'll have access to more tools. And then from an expertise standpoint, I think it really is good to always have some sort of agency relationship just for this, that the fact that they aren't focused solely on one brand, because it is difficult to come up with ideas when you get caught in your own little box in your own little world, versus an agency who's easily able to say like, oh yeah, hey, I wouldn't run Performance Max campaigns. Don't even bother with the test. We tested it with 10 clients already and it failed every time. Yep. Right. So there's that level. There are, again, things that I think are typically done better in-house. Copywriting. That's like a huge one. It's very difficult to outsource somebody and expect them to write at the same level as somebody who's a product expert. I'm a big fan of like the employee advocacy programs. Like I think that there's a lot of great stuff happening on LinkedIn right now in SaaS organizations that is driving growth, community, organic social. Those are all things that I think are much better done in-house. I think paid advertising is kind of a great thing to outsource because it is, there's a lot of technical things that go into it from tools, reporting perspective. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's just one of those things where there's a million different things that you can test. And if you're working with, especially an agency that specializes in a specific industry or vertical, they'll be able to come in and get you off the ground much faster than if you kind of sat down and thought of that strategy yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke to it yourself, right? You've been doing B2B work for almost 10 years now? You've worked with probably I think you said 60 companies.
I don't know. It's a lot.
I mean, it's a lot, right? I mean, I come with also about 10 years experience in digital marketing as well. A little bit different experience than you. But at the end of the day, that's where me and you also shoot the shit. We're exploring ideas of, hey, I've done this before, worked in this type of thing. We can try it for B2B, right? We can try it for this software. We can try it for this service. And that's something, hiring in-house, you sometimes don't even have the ability to shoot the shit because people might not have the expertise that you do or the experience. And you're reporting to a CMO that is also sales manager slash marketing manager. Like, let's be real. Where's his focus?
The
Sales.
head of the old head of sales and marketing, the chief revenue officer, all these new positions that are coming out. Hey, let's try to throw everything under one umbrella so we can give
them a big fancy title,
work, right?
Make their resume look good, be real big on LinkedIn, all that, right? And now we're getting off topic, but really what it comes down to is an agency provides the expertise, some more insights that you might not get from someone in-house. Again, there's outliers. Sometimes you find the perfect employee. It happens, right?
Yeah. Hire a paid person that's worked in a B2B agency for the last 10 years. Like you're going to get you will get the same result.
Yep. But I think one of the biggest things is you have a whole team behind you. I think that's the biggest one because, again, it's a wide array of experience, technical expertise. Sometimes, like with us, we have social media experts. We have paid search experts. We have a branding expert, graphic designers that are freaking amazing. I mean, again, it'd be hard to hire all of those.
And you at the end of the day, a person can't do it all.
100%.
And again, I would our paid search. I lead our paid media team. Our paid search people know more about paid search than I do. Our paid social people know more about paid social than I do. And
what do you do, James?
I am a T-shaped marketer. That's what I am.
I like it.
A T-shaped marketer who has extensive experience in paid media and a well-rounded.
No, it's true though.
Else.
I mean, you're exactly
I hate that
right.
term, but
no,
I hate that term, but it is kind of how you would describe.
Well, it's true. So, this is a prime example of what a partner does, right? When we're not on a client meeting, James, you're having these high-level conversations of, hey, here's what we're seeing in the data. Social team, what's going on, right? I tend to work closer with the social team than I do the search team, right? Jay, who was on last week, he tends to work closer with the search team, and we all work together, right? At the end of the day. So there's no perfect answer, right? Every agency is going to be different, but you need people at different levels, different expertise to really make it work. There's so much going on in a digital world. It's hard to stay on top of it. So being one person, I can't even imagine trying to know everything. That sounds like hell.
I mean, ultimately, this whole thing boils down to, in order to have an effective agency relationship, there has to be trust. There has to be trust that the agency is the experts in what they do and that the client side is the experts in what they do. If you don't have that trust there, if you don't have that trust, it is better to go in-house. It's better to go in-house because it's going to frustrate the agency. It's going to frustrate you. I mean, even when it comes, I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but when it comes to, I mentioned social, I think is better done in-house because what a lot of teams don't social gets a lot of views by a lot of people in the company. Let's be honest, there's more people internally looking at your social than external in a lot of situations. And you'll get feedback from everybody on social. You can't hire an agency to do social and then continuously give them feedback on how to post, what to say, what to do, or whatever, right? It's very silly to put together a content calendar with, this is all of the content that we are going to post on your behalf. And then you have to review the imagery or whatever, versus an in-house person on social can do anything in the moment that they want. Hey, we're at this event right now. I'm there. I'm going to do this, right? Versus, something from an agency side, typically it'll come very curated. And there are great social agencies that are creative and have a lot of resources, but I'll tell you, they cost a lot.
For good ones, cost a lot. No, absolutely. I've experienced as well. Well, I think this has been a good conversation. Again, I would love to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. So please share your insights on, why either this business-led style is working for you. Tell me why I'm wrong with marketing teams. Tell James why he's wrong on a product-led team. We love this conversation. So be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn. But again, thank you so much for joining us this week. A little bit shorter of an episode this week, but I think it was a good conversation all around. So we'll see you next week, and, stay cool. It's hot out here. Well, it's hot where I'm at. So stay cool.
Thanks for listening to Digital Banter. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes are uploaded every Friday. In the meantime, keep up with the show by following James and Zach on social media. Links are in the show notes.